प्राचीन भारत ज्ञान परंपरायां ये विषयाः सन्ति तस्य आधुनिक निर्वहण केंद्रे कथम् उपयोगं कुर्मः इति चर्चां वयं कुर्वन्तः स्मः अत्र. I have to use Sanskrit because otherwise ancient Indian wisdom is not there. Anyway, so what I am going to do is to actually share my experiences of the challenges of running a course in which we actually use ancient Indian wisdom and try to teach management. I'm not going to, I'll bring some scriptural references, but my main thread of argument is not the scriptures that we can always do, but what are the issues in running a course? Because I have been running this course called Management Paradigms from Bhagavad Gita for the last 7-8 years, formally, but for the last 15 years in many other ways we have been, and there are other things that I am doing. So I am going to share some of the challenges because this larger group is actually interested. I will be extremely happy to see that 3 or 4 solid course outlines are prepared at the end of tomorrow evening with clearly delineated course outlines and reading material. We would have achieved what we want to achieve. And at the outset, I would give all the help that is possible from my side. I thank the organizers for a wonderful workshop of this kind, which has been overdue. Okay, so whether we need ancient Indian wisdom, whether we can draw some ideas from ancient Indian wisdom and use it in our current context, I am not going to talk much about it. I think it's a foregone conclusion. I don't want to waste time on that. I think the real issue is how. The real issue is how do we go about? There are so much. People keep telling me this is there in Ramayana, that is there in Ramayana. For example, you just take the 100th Sarga in Ayodhya Kanda, called Kashit Sarga. That's enough to know a great deal of administration and public policy. If you miss a little bit there, go to Aranya Kandam. When Shurpanaga went and tried to provoke Ravana to come and lift Sita, there are principles of good governance and administration. So we can keep on quoting examples like this. That's not the idea. I think I have 2-3 things to share. First thing is, how compelling is it for us to get into this mode of doing things? Little bit I'll talk about it, but I'll quickly get into the issues of actually designing and running a course. Well, today at the end of all 100 years, 115 years of formal management, first business school was Stuck Business School in US, 1900. Until then it was informal management. Indian management systems date back to millions of probably years and so on. But the first official business school was Stuck Business School, 1900. So in 120 years, where have we reached? It looks like we have not even scratched the tip of the iceberg on matters of management because organizations are profoundly unhealthy. Fortune 500 companies disappear. 1/3 of Fortune 500 companies which exist in a list disappear after 10 years. They become unfortunate. Companies which are managers working in companies have all kinds of problems. So what management are we doing? The point is, I am not disposing of today's management. I am only saying this is a pointer to the fact that time is right now to seriously dip into this business of looking at alternate. I am not trying to say Indian concepts are going to give you everything. I am not saying that. But as there is a merit in actually exploring that. Exploring that with utmost sincerity and professional approach. I will come to that part of it a little later. So, all these issues are anyway there. So many reports are there, I just picked up one of them just to... Now, if you look at society, development and all that, I find 2 sides of the same coin. On one side, everything looks good. Income levels are going up, more cars, more, malls, more whatever. You have everything. Although economy is shaking a little bit now, but we'll make sure that we'll continue to sell more cars. Don't worry. Nirmala Sitharaman level, we are trying to work on it. So that's not the issue. So more education degrees, more all that or that. This is one side of the story. But if you turn the coin and look at the other side, what you will find is youngsters are getting older much faster. Is this development? India has the largest number of people in the age group of 20 to 30 who are either hypertensive or diabetic or both. I don't know whether I have to beat the chest or thumb the chest. Because if this is development, I am not going to take it. I am sorry. There is something fundamentally wrong in this. So quality of life, working life deteriorates and so on. there are a lot of studies which says managers and workers want fulfillment and meaning to workplace. So many, the tens and thousands of articles are there. I'm not getting in there. All that I'm saying, all these are saying that there is a context. Now I will take the first sentence from Shankaracharya's Bhashya. He wrote a Bhashya, Bhagavad Gita. Today we are reading Bhagavad Gita because of him. He brought it out of Mahabharata in the 8th century. He wrote a 20-line preamble. Why am I writing a Bhashya? In that, I will quote the first sentence because that profoundly captures the essence of what we are talking today. That is the kind of, just to give you a sample. Before that, Schopenhauer said in his book, The World as Will and Representation, which was written in 1819, translated into English in 1852, he said, when men achieve security and welfare, now that they have achieved everything, they become a problem themselves. What we are going through, he said about 200 years back. But Shankaracharya said, Dvivido Vedokto Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshana. Madam used the words. Pravritti Lakshano Nivritti Lakshanascha Jagataha Sthiti Karanam Sakshat Praninam Abhyudaya Nishraya Sahetu. She used the word Abhyudaya, Pravritti, Nivritti. This is Shankaracharya's first sentence. In fact, he says, Jagataha Sthiti Karanam, the stability of this universe, critically depends on two cardinal principles in Veda. One is called Pravritti Dharma, another is called Nivritti Dharma. And what is this? One is called Abhyudaya, another is called Nishrayas. Abhyudaya means materialism. Who said Indians don't want good roads, don't want security, don't want money? We want riches. And there is this wrong idea that ancient Indian wisdom means throw out everything, you don't need anything, you go to the middle. All these are wrong. We want the best of the materialism. But the difference between the West and the Indian culture is, we will not put a full stop there, we put a big comma there. That's the problem we are going through today. The Western world is telling us it's all materialism, please go after it. That's it. Whereas he says Pravritti Dharma must be compensated and counterbalanced by Nivritti Dharma. You want spiritual evolution. You can never be a great manager, you can never be a great teacher if you just go after materialism. Many of you know that, I don't have to say you that. So he is saying that the stability of the universe lies on a critical balance between Pravritti and Nivritti. This is a fundamental building block of management. We missed one part, we swing the pendulum on one side and just kept it there, asking the pendulum not to come to the other side. That's what is happening in today's genre of development that is happening. Shankaracharya talked about it. So what I am saying is, if you dip deep into it, there are only insights, nothing else. If you have the right lens and get into it, you can keep on drawing and make eminent sense to what we want to solve, the problems that we have today, and develop new insights. All that can happen. That's what he said. Can you have peace? We want a good sleep at the end of the day. Today that's the biggest problem. What do I do with this 8-digit salary if I can't sleep? Please tell me. What do I do? I don't know what to do with this. This is a one-sided idea of life. So we need to restore that balance. This culture and this ancient Indian wisdom can bring that balance. So we have to identify where do we have to operate. That's the issue that I want to actually make here. Now, I now get into, so this is just a context to tell you that there are a lot of things from ancient Indian wisdom we can take it. So I'm not going to talk about it except wherever I need contextually. But I am going to talk about what are the issues here. If I go about offering a course at an MBA level, what will happen and what are the issues? I want to share only that with you. First of all, the potential is very huge. This is my own personal experience. The only question I have is, will we be successful and effective? Particularly, will we be effective? I find serious issues there. There is a lot of good material, but much depends on how do you bring it to the classroom. This is where I see the biggest challenge. But there is a potential, but I don't know how we'll tap the potential. That's the first challenge. Second challenge is the challenge of domain knowledge issues. You need three things. I will say Sanskrit, vernacular also, because it's also there in many of the vernacular. Sanskrit is a big chunk. The second issue is you need to have these three dimensions. I am sorry to tell you, a vast number of attempts in teaching ancient Indian wisdom is like asking me to teach a course on anesthesia. That's what we are doing. Please tell me, if you are a professor of finance, corporate finance, do you read corporate finance and teach, or you simply go and teach? This is what we do with the ancient Indian wisdom. We do a lip service, we have to invest. I will come to that point a little later. We have taken it for granted and it will create more damage than help that we can do. Anyway, I'll come to that issue a little later, but the point is we need these three expertise. Please take it seriously. If you want to offer a course on Ramayana, please read Ramayana, hear some good commentaries, read it first hand, internalize it, because that's what I do. When I teach operations management, I never taught just like that. I spent donkey years sitting and reading operations management, knowing what is happening before even I could step in and do my first session. I want the same approach here. Somehow we seem to be a little bit taken it a little differently in this particular example. And there is a peculiar audience behavior. I want you to understand this. See, if I am a professor of management, if you ask me to comment on anesthesia, I'll say I don't know. If you want me to comment on polymer chemistry, I will say I don't know. But if you want me to comment on usefulness of Bhagavad Gita, I go to the rooftop and say this is a useless text. We have a special license that on ancient Indian wisdom, without knowing anything, you have the competence to go to the rooftop and say all these are nonsense. Your audience will be always like that. You have to swim against the stream. Because I don't know who gave this license, but we have this license. Because there are a lot of people saying Bhagavad Gita is useless. I ask them, what do you know of Bhagavad Gita? First tell me, then we'll talk about usefulness. Please tell me, what did you know about Bhagavad Gita? Then we'll talk about the usefulness. A lot of people are saying it is all communal, religious book, useless. I want to ask them, what do you know? Please tell me. Let's first have a conversation on that. Because the audience will be like that. Whereas they don't say this on financial management or risk assessment or operations management, project management, they keep quiet. But on this, they say, oh, these are nonsense. We have to factor that into your design. So you have to be twice or thrice better. This is the point I am trying to make. Otherwise, this will be an aborted attempt. So there are very important principles I want to drive. The first and the most important principle is context must drive the literature and not vice versa. Please don't take Ramayana and say, I'll teach Ramayana, it will be a disaster, I will tell you. Never try that. You simply say, I want to do, my course is called Management Paradigm from Bhagavad Gita. I am not interested in Bhagavad Gita per se. I want to solve a management problem. I know, fortunately, little bit of 30 years I have toiled, little bit I know about management. So I say, I know I have picked up 4 issues in management. I say, now I want to go after it. In solving it, I will go and dig my Bhagavad Gita. It's not simply, I will give you, Sanskrit universities have a problem. I will give you an example. Sanskrit universities in this country have a course called Readings in Ramayana. You take Kashchi Sarga, you take one Sarga from Sundarakanda, you take a couple of Sargas from Yuddhakanda and 2 Sargas in Balakanda, over, course is over. It serves nothing for anyone, I am telling you. Whereas in Chennai University, when we designed the course, I told you can never design a course like that. And what is the title of our course? The title of our course is called Dharma Perspectives from Ramayana. Which means we are not interested in Ramayana per se, we are interested in Dharma. Then our faculty started actually, they said, oh, Pitri Dharma, Matra Dharma, Loka Dharma, Rashtra Dharma. Then there is 1 Sarga from here, 4 Slokas from here. Then there are some 10 Slokas from another 100 Sargas away. But it is very cogent. That's why I am saying context must drive the literature. Please don't do the other way. There are a lot of people who jump into Bhagavad Gita. Let us teach Bhagavad Gita and management. They teach Bhagavad Gita on one side, management on the other side. It is for you to find out what to do with these two. That's a homework for you. I mean, that will create more damage than serving the cause. The second important experience I have is modern media tools are extremely valuable. I use the state-of-the-art TEDx, Ink Talks and videos to teach, let us say, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga, which is the toughest chapter in Bhagavad Gita. 13th chapter is a little highly philosophical. I use an Ink Talk in which one person was run over by a car. Or Arunima Sinha. I show her video and then in half an hour we are able to get Buddha, Viveka, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, everything we are able to do. You have to be very creative. You can use a lot of media tools to actually teach the very old concept. That way, the Shraddha and old concepts will be very high. I'll give little examples I show you, 1 or 2 examples I show you. I'm just laying down the principles. No compromise absolutely whatsoever on ground realities to decide usefulness of a course. Don't ride on this, this theory, we have to bring in ancient Indian wisdom, so therefore you ride on that passion and then dilute on something else. I think you must be able to connect to today's context or problem, otherwise don't do. Right? Shelf life of concepts are very important. Correct? And uniqueness of the ideas are very important. If you are able to do it, your students will become a die-hard, follower of that text than you. That is the job of a teacher. And that is a cause that we are actually working for. So this should be the basis on which we should really design our courses. I'll give specific examples. If you take my management paradigm from Bhagavad Gita course, of course the centerpiece of the course is Bhagavad Gita. But when you read a course outline, you never see that. I talk about failed leadership, I talk about work and satisfaction, I talk about sustainability, I talk about Indian psychology, individual psychology, understanding oneself and self. These are all the issues I talk. But in the process, I use about 150 shlokas out of 700. Actual shlokas I use, I don't talk about Gita, I talk Gita. This is another problem. People talk about it, not it. That is again a very damaging thing. We should not do that. 14 videos I use, TEDx videos, Ink videos, all the time. My daughter asked me, why are you all the time on the YouTube? I said, to get these videos for my courses. I find the modern technology helps me to teach the most complex principles of Vedanta and ancient Indian wisdom so beautifully. I use case studies, 8 to 10 case studies, right? I have my own writings on Gita and by others, commentaries by modern gurus, Chinmayananda, Dayananda Saraswati, Swami Ranganathananda, Universal Message of Gita. And I am absolutely on dot on compliance with AICT and UGC. This course can never be any way lesser than any course outline you write for your financial management. It's very important for us to do that. It will stand and shine on its own merit in terms of compliance. Whether it is evaluation, whether it is readings, whether it is course outline, modules, you cannot pick any course. If you are willing to put that kind of effort, this course will become immortal. You will become mortal. The course will become immortal. That's what we are trying in these 2 days, actually. Specific examples. How do I teach Triguna? This is what I do. I open my computer, I go into the RGB, I just draw a table and color it. Color it with 3 numbers, RGB. In Microsoft, whenever you do a color, there is something called RGB. You can go and change the color. And then if I just show this to my students and ask what do you get out of it, in 10 minutes, every nuance of Triguna they get. I don't have to actually explain anything to them. They get everything out of it. In fact, there is a 9th shloka in chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Rajas tamas cha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. It's called law of guna dominance. Krishna says, Rajas and tamas will be overpowered by sattva at times. All the 3 combinations. Sometimes Rajas will overpower. How do I teach it? I just use this color palette. I ask them, what do you see here? Then my students get everything. The entire chapter 14 of Bhagavad Gita, I need only 20 minutes to teach. I show them an RGB from Microsoft Color Palette, which is a tool which is available today, not 5,000 years back, right? And I have a little bit of a discussion, and they get everything out of what is called Trigunas. There are 3 gunas here called R, G and B. So I just end my whole discussion with a simple slide which says that 3 ingredients are enough to create a world of colors. You can make these are what my students say. You can make innumerable shades of colors with any combination of RGB. When one of the 3 dominates, Rajas tamas cha vibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. When one of them dominates, then whatever you do, it will be a shade of that color. That's what the second table actually showed. Whatever you do, it will be a shade of blue because I control the blue. Right? So this is just an example I am giving. What I am trying to tell you is, if you want to teach ancient Indian wisdom, you can use today's tools and then connect it to that. That they remember these examples because they remember Triguna for their lifetime and they take a serious interest into the whole matter of affairs. I thought I will just give an example. So after all this discussion, I actually bring in what is called Triguna, right? I tell it is made of, like RGB, it is SRT, if you wish. It's a property or attribute that characterizes that something exists in reality, which is what we want to actually tell. They get very interested. Oh, this is how every individual is made. This is called individual psychology, your own color palette. They're able to very easily relate to these deep concepts of psychology, which is very unique in Sankhya system. So beautifully we see it in the Indian system of Sankhya. How the Trigunas are so beautifully articulated into, this thing and so on. I just gave an example to tell you, don't think if you have to teach ancient Indian wisdom, there is no use of today's tools. I find full-blown use of today's tools, which I can actually put to use. That's the job of a teacher. You have to bring that creativity and that energy into the discussion and into the classroom, especially in an MBA kind of a setting. Look at this. This is a nice passage from Taittiriya Upanishad. Om iti brahma, om iti idagam, sarvam, om iti etat anugridhiha smava, apyo shravayetya shavayanti, om iti samani gayanti, ogum shomiti shastrani shagum santi, om itat paryur pratigranam pratigranati, om iti brahma prasauti. This is a beautiful context. This thing. In this thing, here lies some fundamental principles of project management. If you really want to explain project management, I would use this quote. You know what this is saying? Instead of trying to explain this mantra, it will take some time. I will show you what it is actually depicting. This is what it is saying. It is saying an yajna is made of an 18-member team. This is all contained in this. If you get into the explanation, you have the Yajamana Patni and the Yajamana who are the people. Then there is something called Hotrugana, which is the Rigvedis. Then you have what is called Advaryugana, which is Yajurvedis. There is a leader and an assistant, 1 plus 3. That's how 4 is coming. 1 leader and 3 assistants. Okay? And you have what is called Udgatrugana, who is a Samavedi. And there is something called Brahmagana, who is actually Atharvavedi. These 18 people actually run the show. And they are well laid out. If you read Kalpa Shastra, you will find beautiful ideas of organization, beautiful ideas of delegation. But when I was a student of management, we were reading organization and what is called delegation. The example gave us Roman Catholic Church. So you know what is the earliest example? Read chapter 3 of Prashna Upanishad. Just there is a very sentence which says the prana by itself cannot administer, just like a king has so many people appointed to take care of this thing, the prana breaks itself into 5. Bring such examples. You have to bring thousands of examples into your contemporary setting. People understand the value of this literature. We simply, quote or all that, this is not going to go anywhere because, it's not going to work. The same thing is available in Mundaka Upanishad also. It gives that number, Ashtadasha. It says, Plavaha hi ete. Plavaha is a boat, it's an uncertain boat with 18. In a different context, this number 18 is coming. Yajna, if you read Kalpa, you will find, if I am a professor of operations management, I find a lot of ideas in Kalpa. Kalpa is all about operations management. How do you do, who should do what are the procedures, what are the standard operating procedures, what material required, what planning is required, what is the size of this thing, everything is written there. That's what I teach as operations management. Operations management, I should read Kalpa Shastra. So nice. Now, relevant questions and relevant thoughts are plenty in ancient Indian wisdom. This is a shloka from chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. It says, Atakena praiktoyam papam charati purushaha anichanapi vashne baladiva niyojitaha. This is a question which is being asked every day by every working person. Not now. They have been asking millions of years before. They will ask millions of years later also, which Krishna is asking. Arjuna is asking to Krishna. And what is it? I have me and my boss had a very bad interaction today. My boss was very unhappy with me, with my performance and all that. I go back home. I download everything onto my son, daughter, or my spouse. That night, this question will come. Why did I do it? Or in a meeting, in a department meeting, I am a very good friend of you. Otherwise, they are very well meaning. But I just transgressed my limits and then started shouting at you. That night, this question will come. Atakena praiktoyam papam chariti purusha. Why did I do this? Why did I become victim of situation? Paladiva niyojitaya. Somebody has pushed me into the situation. These are very important questions. When you talk of psychology and interpersonal behavior, you have to bring this question. And Krishna has answers. Kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. all that he is explaining. Why can't we take this and then analyze it in some detail? So bring the context and then look for the literature. That's the point I'm making. It's very important we bring the context first and then the literature. Then it becomes such a nice way of getting this literature across. Our uddesha is get the literature. But that will happen only when you do it this way. It will not happen the other way. Merely bringing literature will make it uninteresting for them because we don't have that kind of a training. Well, I will conclude by a few examples I gave, but I would also conclude by a few pitfalls that we need to avoid. Again, this is very, very important when we get into this Bharatiya management. First one is we should have absolute clarity. Lack of clarity will do the first damage. As I told you, do you do a readings on Ramayana or do you want to do a Dharma perspectives from Ramayana? Please make up your mind. In a business school, I would never do readings on Ramayana. It will be a disaster. I will do Dharma perspectives from Ramayana because the Prayojana is required first and then the concepts. So I think we have to, when you design a course outline, please start what do you want to achieve and then let us see which text to look at. You say, don't say I want to somehow introduce Ramayana, that will be a disaster. You say, I want to do it, now let me dip into Ramayana and get the relevant kind of things and then put it along with that. That is a much better way of doing. So many people try to do this. I wanted to just, caution you on that. Ignorant teaching is more damaging than no teaching. I would be happy if people don't teach rather than teaching because already we have a problem thinking ancient Indian wisdom has nothing useful. We are only, doing, I go and teach anesthesia and destroy the whole thing. If I have to teach anesthesia, let me spend 2 years reading anesthesia first. Thoroughly I understand what is anesthesia before going there. This is a big caution I want to give. Don't jump with so much of anxiety that we will do it because we would have done more damage to the cause than any help. And I think if you truly mean, I am happy so many of us have come here, that so many of colleagues, our director from IIT Trichy is here, so many colleagues from IIM Bangalore, so many business schools are here. It shows our level of seriousness. Let's say that we invest that kind of a time. If we invest that kind of time, this 2 days is going to make a lot of sense to us. Otherwise, sometimes the damage can be more than what we started with. So I only request that ignorant teaching is more damaging than no teaching. Better off no teaching. There are two generic and sweeping conclusions. People tend to do that with ancient Indian wisdom. There is Matta Parataram Na Anyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya Mayi Sarumitam Protam Sutre Manigana Iva. People say this is string theory. Don't do that. That's a damage. Just because there is a string and there is something weaved around it. I have written papers like that. I have read papers like that where they are saying, they quote the shloka and say string theory and all that. There is a lot of such saying for every inertia of problems you have a solution. I think we should never do that. We should go there is a high degree of realism we need. Get very interesting insights, get clear messages, then they will do the balance homework for the rest of their lifetime. And that's what we want. This group is interested in that kind of a thing. So, generic and sweeping conclusions must be avoided as far as possible. And using the old knowledge to explain what is already practiced today. This is called glorifying the past. For example, I teach leadership. Little bit I do. Immediately then I go to what else we can look for. That little bit I do because I want them to see the connection. But if we run the whole course, everything that you are saying today, you want to show it is available, that's not a very interesting course. Please don't do that. People say, fine, I'll continue to do this. If you say something very interesting, I have reason to go there. So trying to explain, because another tendency I see. No, whatever you are saying is available in this literature. That's not interesting. You do it 20% or 30%, don't do 100% like that. So that's the other pitfall that we need to avoid. This is the most important thing. Using foreign translations, particularly English, of Indic knowledge as authentic is the biggest mistake. To Tandiya Brahmana, I'll give you one quotation by a very renowned Dutch scholar, which in Pride of India also I saw the same quotation if I remember, right? It was totally wrong. Because, I am sympathetic with such people because they don't know the culture, they don't know where from they are coming. But I am not at all sympathetic with our natives. Because you can't afford to think that they know everything and that's wrong. It's completely wrong. Which means we have to do our homework a little bit and then bring our own thing. Excessive reliance of using translated works is again a risk. If you want to teach Bharatiya management, my simple advice to you is please get into the original text yourself. With whatever attendant limitation, I started like that. I knew no Sanskrit. But fortunately, Chambu Krishna Sastri is here. Great work that Samskrita Bharati has done has dramatized this country. I am one beneficiary of that. It takes some 20 years. Let it take 20 years. We want to leave an impact and go. Why are in a hurry? Don't hurry up. Please, because substance is all fine. Spirit is very important. Don't look at Raja Ravi Verma's painting on a black and white photocopy. See it in original. Because black and white photocopy has substance, no spirit. So ancient Indian wisdom is like that. Don't look at only translated work all the time. If you are genuine desire and passion towards it, spend some time. So I spend in my professional life at least 20 hours, 25 hours a week only on reading ancient Indian wisdom in addition to my IAMB things. If you don't bring that kind of a commitment, good things cannot get transferred. Just I show you one example of how foreign translations can be very risky. Look at here. Yavadvai sahasram gava uttara adara, one over the other. That's it. We literally translate in English. Uttara adara ityavhu tavad asmat loka swargaha lokaha. So he's saying sahasra gava. Go means, this scholar has translated it as, the world of heaven is as far removed from this earthly world as 1,000 cows standing on. This is nonsense. If you read a text like that, you will say ancient Indian wisdom is nonsense. Because Gau has 38 meanings. If you get into, one of the Vedangas, you will find Gau has some 38 meanings. One of them is earth. Nirutta. If you look at Nirutta, you will find there are 38 different meanings for Gau. Cow is what you know. You cannot translate it like that. Because no idiot will agree that you put 100,008 cows one over the other. I think this society was not, our ancestors are not idiots. I don't know about myself, but our ancestors are never idiots. So instead of trying to understand what it's, similarly, there is something called Sahasra Yaji. You see, 1,000 dakshinas are given. This is an example I am giving. He is supposedly a reputed scholar. What I am trying to tell you is, you have to be very careful about these aspects. Then Bharatiya management will gainfully flourish. I just stop here. She has already been warned me about time and so on. I just put this and leave it here. Choose very relevant themes to be addressed. There are a lot of relevant themes. Start from a context, then go to the literature. Sustainability, nobody can address the way Indians can address, I am telling you. If you want to develop a course on sustainability.
Please give the correct translation of what you quoted.
Huh?
Please give the correct translation.
No, it will get longer, sir. Because Sahasra Yaji, then I have to get into what is a Yajna and Yaji, and let's not do that. All that I want to say is, it is sort of, So choose a main text to drive the message. Do a rigorous research. Cull out relevant messages from the text. Look for modern multimedia tools that can help you. Write a UGC AICTE compliant beautiful course outline which should stand on its own merit. Don't ask for any support because I am teaching ancient Indianism, give me some concession. Please don't do that. Get it vetted by experts, both by the ancient Indian wisdom experts and the management experts. Experience the joy of teaching. Thank you.